Welcome to Highline BI 348 class video number 37. Hey, if you want to download this workbook, BI 348 chapter 2.5, import 7, click on the link below the video. Hey, in this video, we actually want to look at Excel 2016 and see where in the world Power Query is. And our specific goal is we have a data set. Business instructor, these are the average weekly hours worked during the academic year. These are the hours worked for chemistry, for physics, and accounting instructors. And we need to take this improper data set and convert it into a proper data set. Now, what that means is for business instructors, I actually need another column next to each one of these numbers that lists business instructor. Same for chemistry instructors. Each number needs to have the criteria for what this number is, specifically chemistry instructor. Now, we're going to use the feature unpivot columns. Now, you can think of unpivot columns as this. If we had a proper data set, like with two columns, teachers and average hours, we would simply drag teachers to the columns in a pivot table, and it would give us this unique list of instructors. But we want to do the opposite. We want to tell this data set to unpivot. Give me a column just with the instructors and just with the numbers. No problem. Power Query does this with just a few clicks. Now, where in the world is Power Query? Well, actually, it's on the Data ribbon, Get and Transform group. Now, Get and Transform makes perfect sense because what does Power Query do? It goes out and gets data from all sorts of sources. In fact, earlier in this series of videos, we saw how to use new query, and there's all sorts of sources where we can get data from. Or we can use the from table to get data from inside the same workbook that's going to have the Power Query output. So that's the get part. And then the transform part, of course, is converting the data into proper data set or converting it to whatever form you want. All right, first we have to convert this table to a proper Excel table. So insert and click on table, or simply use the keyboard Control-T and enter. That's an official Excel table. I want to be sure and come up to Table Tools and name this. I actually gave this a long name, Teachers Hours Worked Improper Data Set. So the actual table name is going to say Improper Data Set. Now, with a single cell selected, I can go up to Data, and the new Power Query in Excel 2016, Get and Transform. Now I click From Table. Instantly, I get my data set in Power Query. I come over here and Teacher Hours Worked Improper Data Set. That's the table name from back over in Excel. I'm actually going to rename the query Teacher Hours Worked Proper Data Set and hit Enter. Now I can click on the first column, hold Shift, click on the last column. I have all of the columns. Now I go up to Transform in this amazing unpivot columns. Just like that, proper data set. Now I have to come up and double click to rename Teachers column and Enter. Double click and call this Enter Average Weekly Hours Worked. Now we can go to Home and Close and Load to. And I'm actually going to just close and load because I'm going to send this to a new sheet. There's the 47-row query listed in our query pane. There's the table. Double click and rename this sheet, Teachers Hour Data, and Enter. Now I have a proper data set. I can do things like come over and filter. Click OK. I could sort if I want to. I can clear the filter. I can come over here and say, hey, show me for a number filter greater than, and I want to see greater than 55 hours worked in a week on average. And look at that. Unfilter. Clear. Now, what I really want to do is make a pivot table and calculate the mean and the standard deviation. So with the single cell, insert pivot table, or use our keyboard Alt and V, an existing sheet location, maybe something like E1. Click OK. Close this query editor, drag the pivot table field list over. Teachers down to rows to get my unique list. average weekly hours, I'm going to drag it twice down to the values area. Close the pivot table field list. Inside, I want to go up to Design, Report Layout, Show in Tabular. Now, for each one of these, I want to right-click and go down to Value Field Settings. This is the one-stop shopping for the function, the number formatting, and changing the name. I'll call this mean and enter. Now I want to come over, right-click, Value Field Settings. We'll change this to standard deviation. The P means population. Without the P means sample. Number formatting. Number. Click OK. We'll change the name up here. I'll leave it as STDEF and enter. And there we have, looks like they're all working over 40 hours. Standard deviation of 4 for the accounting. And look at that crazy standard deviation. Almost 50-hour average with a standard deviation of 12 hours. All right, in this video, we saw how to create this proper data set when we had an improper data set, a table that looked like it had pivoted criteria at the top, and we wanted to unpivot. And of course, we saw data, the get and transform group. That is the new Power Query in Excel 2016. All right, next video, we'll actually see how to import 4 million rows of data into Excel and do analysis on it. All right, we'll see you next video.